In our effort to pray the Psalms, we learn that it is good to sing reminders about the nature of God. The pilgrim songs of the Psalms of Ascent were sung on the literal pilgrimage Jews took to Jerusalem for 3 festivals each year. But for us, they are sung on the spiritual pilgrimage of prayer. This journey presents danger. Psalm 121 is a pilgrim song that uses this travel motif to illustrate God's ever-present watch over his pilgrim people. The road presents dangers, so the psalmist sings a song of confidence. Let's read from the NIV. I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. According to the Dictionary of Biblical Imagery, height is one of the major value images of the Bible. It helps us to understand some of the thought world here. It goes on to say that Psalm 121 embodies the pervasive biblical tendency to use imagery of physical height to express spiritual transcendence. Remember, this is a song of ascent. The destination, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, aka Zion, is elevated. So is the psalmist looking at these mountains as one who lives among mountains might, and remember that God is the maker of these? Perhaps. Yet there may be more going on here. Remember the books of the Kings? How there was an ever-present yet mildly confusing issue of the high places? Though many God-honoring high place moments happened, Abraham at Moriah, Moses at Sinai, Elijah at Carmel, mountaintop shrines were also a Canaanite staple. They would worship their imagined pantheon at altars, shrines, and Asherah poles. The Book of Kings often rates the rulers of Israel on whether they got rid of these centers of idolatry. So perhaps our psalmist is surveying the mountaintops before him polemically. What I mean is, he is looking at these high places, asking a rhetorical question in response to the temptation of asking for help from other deities. Is it from Shamash, the sun god, Sin, the moon god, or Baal, the storm god, that I receive help? No, it's from Yahweh, the maker of heavens and earth. Perhaps tempted by asking for other help, the psalmist stirs his own heart to remember the creator God, not imagined in fickle deities such as those of the Mesopotamian pantheon, who were really little more than personified natural phenomenon. In other words, the psalm may be asking himself a question in the midst of temptation, bolstering his faith by remembering that Yahweh, his God, is the maker, the creator, stronger than any natural hazards he faces, certainly stronger than the imagined pantheon of idolaters. When we pray this psalm, we can ask ourselves, where else am I tempted to look for help? We may not look to literal high places, but perhaps the places our idols are housed in bank accounts, in technological devices, in our high status or hopes of it. When your eyes drift to other sources of help, let them bounce and look back at Yahweh. By the way, Azer, here translated as help, is the same term used of Eve in relation to Adam in Genesis. The notion that help is somehow less than would create quite a theological dilemma for the singer of this song. Yahweh himself is our help. This is a title of high value, not of secondary support. Being at someone's right hand, as God is placed here, it's a place of honor. It is also a metaphor of strength. In his book Interpreting the Psalms, Mark Futato suggests that psalmists usually have one, not both, of these connotations in mind based on their context. Adding additional imagery and nuance to God's role as protector in the beginning of the line, God is then characterized here as shade on the right, protection against the sun. His location at the right hand suggests God's strength. And here, the source of strength for us. Is God here then depicted as an honored servant, a royal guard? Indeed, God is on watch. He is the keeper, the protector. Many commentators have noted that the poetic art of this psalm is the repetition of the root shamar, that the psalmist employs 6 times in these short verses. Remember the Aaronic blessing, may the Lord bless and keep you? This is the same verb, here repeated in various forms. Part of God's original blessing is evidenced in his provisional protection. His protection marks his presence. From what is he protecting this ascending traveler? Peterson notes that the threats described, sun and moon, were real travel hazards of ancient peoples. Heat stroke and lunacy, as Peterson notes this old and cross-cultural connection between the moon and emotional illness, they loom as dangers. For the pilgrims singing this song, these weren't metaphor, but tangible dangers. For us, as we pray and sing these, we can also remember our tangible dangers and our spiritual ones. On this journey of faith, what threatens you? Remind yourself that God is your guardian. As you pray, notice where your eyes go, so to speak. Do they survey the shelf of other helps? The screen? The escape? The bottle? Remember where your help comes from. God is your guardian, your keeper, your watcher. He sees you. As you survey the horizon and look for him, as you lift your eyes for help, remember he is paying attention to you. He doesn't sleep. He's never taken a smoke break. He's there at your right hand. As you pray this song of confidence in God, may you believe what you are praying. He is guarding your comings and goings forever.